Hey everyone, so we're live. I just wanted to give you all, oh, look at this tie. It's all just there we go. I'm all formal now. So I wanted to give you an update on how the Ontario Realtor Conference for 2018 went. First off, overall impression, it was fantastic. I think very well executed. Some huge stars in the political world out, and of course that's what this conference is all about, is politics, and certainly and advocacy for consumers. So but for starters, from a realtor's perspective, certainly if you enjoy talking politics, specifically as it relates to home ownership, but also being able to understand what's going on in the political world, both in Canada, and there's certainly some conversation about what's been going on in the United States. This conference was one that you should not have missed because we had some pretty heavy hitters. For starters, yesterday, obviously, we had Ray Ferris, the OREA past president, come up and speak, but we've also had quite a few people from Hill and Knowlton. Today was exceptional because we had not only Tim Hudak, who is the CEO of OREA, David Reed, who's the current president of OREA. OREA is the Ontario Real Estate Association for those realtors, or for those people who are not realtors. Sean Morrison and Steve Cotan are both co-chairs for the committee that ran this event. Anyways, so we had Nick Nanos. He's the president of Nanos Research. He went into some pretty good information about what's been going on politically in Canada and Ontario. And he talked a little bit about how federally the Conservatives are, I guess, going to ramp up or something towards trying to get the leadership on the federal side of things. But also we've had conversations. Let me just see what I have my notes here. Oh, maybe I took it in this one. So what did I say about Mr. McNaughton? Real estate has been the economic driver for Ontarians, and the realtors are the gatekeepers to Ontario's real estate. So as such, realtors are a huge part of ensuring that the economic engine of our province, but of course the country as well. It's exceptionally important that we are good advocates for homeowners, and this is the reason why I participate in organized real estate. It's because I understand not only the impact that real estate has on families, but more importantly, what making sure good policy can do in making sure that the middle class and the lower class have equal access to obtaining real estate, certainly in the long term. Now I know, many people who do not have the amount of money, or they don't have their parents who have lots of money who could help them get into real estate. But certainly if you work your tail off, there is many examples of people who have been able to achieve home ownership at an earlier age. If you're a millennial, you just have to put your mind to it. You need to dedicate time to improving yourself so that you can earn the wages you need to in order to get to that employment standard. But if you're a young family with kids, both of you are working your tails off but not getting paid what you should be, certainly, I do not shortchange you. I understand how difficult raising a family can be, and that's part of what the conference is about. Some of the past victories that the Ontario Real Estate Association has gotten was increasing the land transfer tax rebate from $2,000 to $4,000. So that saves you an extra $2,000 on your closing expenses. But also ensuring that the government policy is not going to penalize first-time home buyers, to ensure that you have an opportunity to get into the real estate market. We also advocate for increasing supply of housing, because one of the main reasons we've seen prices increase at such a significant level is because we have a lack of supply in the real estate market in the GTA and the surrounding area. And that's one of the main causes of the real estate growth in values that we've seen, that has certainly peed off a lot of people, and rightfully so. So another thing that Nick Nanos touched on was a most disruptive technological change in Canadian history. is what we're facing right now, and we must work together with all levels of government to make sure we are prosperous and competitive. Certainly, we're starting to see a lot of competition coming up from the United States, and that's something that we need to address. So that was the Nick Nanos portion of the day. We moved on to after that, we had so the Tim Hudak, the CEO, came back, but this time with David McNaughton, the ambassador of Canada to the United States. I found this exceptionally interesting. I even went so far as to get out there and interrupt their conversation so I could get a nice picture with Mr. McNaughton, because this man took one of the most fragile, most nail-biting situations between the United States and Canada in its recent history, when it came to the discussion and the dispute regarding NAFTA. And he managed to, along with his team and the government, to close that deal, make sure that we had a free trade agreement with the United States, which saved thousands upon thousands of jobs for Canadians. And, politically, that's an icon, if not a hero status, when it comes to ensuring that economically our country is still sound and still has good relations with our largest trading partner ever. So I really enjoyed hearing what he had to say and about the turmoil that he went in. And the interesting part was that, and this is something that I think should be applied in every respect when you're talking about communicating and negotiating, is never attack the person in a personal way. So obviously Trump has a sensitive demeanor. He cannot handle criticism at all. And certainly if they had gone into the negotiations making fun of him like everyone else in the world had, then we would probably not be where we are today. So he had a very good head on him and a lot of experience. So that was fantastic. So who was next? Well, we had then we had three Ford insiders. Again, Melissa Lantzman from VP Hill and Knowlton, Michael Coates from partner Rubicon Strategies, and Mike Diamond, founder Upstream Strategies. Getting back into the politics after that break, we had a Queen's Park panel, at which time, and then we had a keynote speaker. So this is when the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, came on, and Doug Ford had a couple pretty good quotes. Now, certainly, I have concerns and debates regarding some of his policies, but what he spoke about real estate seemed to ring true in the room for sure. So his goal is to cut 25% of the over 300,000 regulations that Ontario has. He believes that there's a lot of duplication between Ontario politics and legislation, or red tape, as he calls it, and the federal government. Certainly that is, I think, has some purpose, considering the fact that the federal government changes as well. So if we want protections and then all of a sudden the federal government changes its legislation, then now we have no course of protection for whatever that particular purpose of that legislation was. So duplication of legislation isn't necessarily a reason to get rid of the legislation. It's more a matter of making sure that you don't create inconsistencies with how that legislation's performed. That's just in my opinion. Anyways, so Ford gave a pretty good speech. He's talking about housing supply and the action plan. He wants to keep rent controls in place. So despite what a lot of people believe, he has not taken rent controls out. However, he is going to reduce rent controls for new housing supply. He wants to cut red tape when it comes to development. He said some developers may take 5 to 6 years before they can have their development established or getting the green light. He's saying he wants to bring that down to 1 year. That I like, in the sense that I know I work with developers, but I dislike from the point of view that why is there a 5-year difference, right? It can't just be because of bureaucracy. It's got to also have some purpose. And in a lot of ways that can be environmental. It can also be public input. There's a variety of reasons why we have such a long process when it comes to developing land. And certainly when we're talking about the GTA, we do have a limited supply of land. And so I am fearful that we may be putting ourselves in a position under this platform, that will lead us to decisions that may affect us in the long term that we may later regret. And that is one thing the government should not be doing, in my opinion. Anywho, 1 year to be able to put application for building new housing. So that was Doug Ford. And then obviously, if you want to get more information on that, you can go to ontario.ca/housing supply. Moving on to the next, there was pundits panel, but for that, at that point, I had to go meet with an MPP at Queen's Park, Mr. Guratan Singh, MPP from Brampton East. At that point, they had Warren Kinsale, president in Daisy Consulting Group, Kathleen Monk, principal, Earnscliffe Strategy Group, and Chad Rogers he's a founding partner of Crestview Strategy. But when I got back, I was able to see the new Democratic Party leader, Andrea Horwath. She had a 15-minute conversation with us, or pretty much speech, which I found was decent. I didn't remember any specific notes I took on that, but I just enjoyed the speech. Then we had John Fraser, the interim leader for the Liberal Party, come in. He was also had a couple humorous jokes, specifically about how many Liberals there are left, and that they could be in a cube van or something like that. And he had got a couple good laughs. After that, so the rookie class of 18 was from 2:30 to 3:15. So we had Stan Cho, Vitali Karpoche, probably butchered that, and Stephen Lecce, all MPPs for different parts of Southern Ontario, and all of which are millennials. One of them, I think Stan Cho, is actually 41, as he corrected the interviewer there. But it's quite inspiring to see, regardless of your political stripes, it is so refreshing to see the youth involved in politics. I totally resent the fact that they made fun of millennials, and they said to these millennials that they should speak to the rest of us millennials for not being so lazy. I was borderline going to say screw you, because that's bullshit. Millennials are extremely innovative, creative, and hardworking. I don't know where they get this imaginary stigma that they try to associate with millennials, but it's so wrong. And frankly, it's just older generations whining because they're sad. And I hope that they smarten up, because I was in the room and I found it offensive. Millennials, I came from nothing. I don't get any inheritance. Okay. And I don't need people discriminating against me just because I'm younger than them and they think that they're better than me. No, thank you. Goodbye. So moving next. Then we had Mike Schreiner. The rookie class, that was really cool. They talked about their experiences. They talked about their particular political stances on certain things, to be expected. Next, we had Mike Schreiner. He was the leader of the Green Party of Ontario. One of the things I really liked what he had to say was the aspect similar to the Chinese and a lot of East Asian cultures, they think long term. And in North America, we have a huge problem because we constantly think short term. It's in everything we do. It's kind of pathetic because we do not see the big picture because we're so focused on a quarter by quarter basis. My God, even a month by month or a week by week basis, we determine, oh, well, how's the stock doing? How's this and that and the other thing? We can't have a long-term prospect because we're constantly focused on the short term. Meanwhile, our competition internationally are talking about 100-year strategic plans, and we are so short-sighted. So I get to my point. Mike Schreiner brought up one of his